Hey, what's up, Revision Online? Welcome back to another Wednesday Night Live. We're so excited to have you guys here with us tonight. Man, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling super grateful right now. And that might sound weird to some of you guys, the fact that I'm feeling thankful in a time like this, but truly the fact that we're able to do this together, the fact that we're able to meet online, we're able to continue to draw closer to Jesus and be in community with each other, even though that might look a little bit different. Man, I'm not taking that for granted anymore. This week for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you too, has been a week full of me just realizing things that I take for granted in my life. All the people, the activities, the places that are so normal. And when they're taken away from you, it's so easy to look back and realize all these things that we take for granted and realize just how much God has blessed us. And so in this season, I think for all of us, if we can walk through this next chapter of life and come out the other side with hearts that are full of gratitude, hearts that are a little bit more thankful, I think a heart full of thanksgiving is a heart that is a little bit closer to the heart of God. And so I want to encourage you guys in that tonight. Anyways, on Sunday, Mike talked through Psalm 23. And what I want to do to start our night out tonight is to sing a song that comes directly from that text. One of the verses that Mike talked about was this. It said, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." And basically what David is saying right here is that God has given us all that we need to fulfill the purposes that he has for our life. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be enemies, worry, anxiety, or doubts or challenges. Just facing uncertainty. It doesn't mean that stuff's not going to be there, but in the midst of that, God is going to lead us through, and he's going to surround us, and he's going to be with us. And I think that there's a lot of comfort in knowing that that's the case. There's a lot of comfort in knowing that he has prepared a way for us, that he's prepared a table for us. And so we're going to sing this song. Some of you guys maybe know it, maybe you've heard it, maybe others of you have not before, but the bridge of it just says this. It says, "It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you." And I think, man, what better words to sing in a time like this? What better words to sing? It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Like, it may look like I'm surrounded by worry and anxiety and fear, but the reality is I'm choosing right now to trust you, and to trust that you are going before me and you're making a way. And so as we sing that, as we sing the chorus too, that just says, "This is how I fight my battles." And by this, it's just singing songs of thanksgiving and praise. It's how we're fighting our battles right now. And let's choose to replace our anxiety with worship. Let's choose to replace our doubts and our fears with praise and thanksgiving. And so if you know the song, maybe sing along. If you don't, pray along with us and just let these words minister to you tonight. All right?
There's a table that you've prepared for me in the presence of my enemies. It's your body and your blood you shed for me. This is how I fight my battles. This table that you prepared for me in the presence of my enemies. It's your body and your blood you shed for me. This is how I fight my battles. And I believe you overcome, and I will lift my song of praise for what you've done. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. Valley, I know that you're with me, and surely your goodness and your mercy follow me. My weapons are praise and thanksgiving, 'cause this is how I fight my battles. And I believe you overcome, and I will lift my song of praise for what you've done. 'Cause this is how I fight my battles, and this is how I fight my battles, and this is how I fight my battles, and this is how, and this is how I fight my battles, and this is how I fight my battles, and this is how I fight my battles, and this is how. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like, it may look like, it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Wednesday Night Live. We had a lot of feedback last week. People were saying, hey, great sweater, could you just keep wearing more sweaters? And it turns out I do have more sweaters. Also, had a couple comments about my glasses. People were hoping I could wear my glasses, so just for you guys. And then also, apparently Grant put up a poll about my hair, and people voted for long hair. So I didn't shave this week, and this is the results. And so now you guys know what it looks like. And what's...
I'm making a video. Can you stop stealing my stuff, please?
Well, people wanted me to have hair and glasses and a sweater, Jeff.
You look bad. Okay? They were making fun of you.
You're saying that's not what they wanted?
No, I think it might even be the exact opposite. Just stop taking my things, man.
Well, this is pretty awkward. Just a minute. Ugh. All right, there we go. There we go. I am excited to be here for round 2 of Wednesday Night Live, and I did get one bit of positive feedback from last week. There were a bunch of people who thought it was cool that we talked about one of the names of God in the Bible. Last week we talked about Yahweh Nisi, God our banner, our place of love and belonging. And I thought, you know what, in a time of massive uncertainty, there is comfort and peace to be found in knowing who God is. So I decided we're going to spend a few Wednesdays talking about some different names of God, different terms the Bible uses to refer to him that give us a bigger, better vision of who he is and how he relates to us. And tonight I want to talk about my favorite name for God in the entire Bible. And I wish I could say it's because of some super spiritual reason, but to be honest with you guys, it's my favorite name for God because every time I hear it, I picture a backwoods, toothless moonshiner in Appalachia. And that's a funny picture to get in your head when you're thinking about God. So here it is. One of the things the Bible calls God is El-Roi. You heard that right, El-Roi. And that name first shows up in one of the craziest stories in a book that's full of crazy stories. I'm gonna skip a lot of details for the sake of brevity, but if you wanna read the whole thing, you can find it in Genesis 15 and 16. But here's what's going down. God shows up and tells a guy named Abram, who doesn't have any kids, that he's gonna have a son and ultimately become the father of many nations. And his ancestors will be used to point the whole world towards God's love. But there's a problem with God's promise. Abram and his wife Sarai are way too old to be having kids. They're in their 70s. But they're like, all right, God promised. And so they start trying for a decade and nothing happens. And now they're in their 80s and the weight of it all and the waiting of it all are crushing them. And so Sarai gets this idea. She's like, yo, Abe, you should try to have a son with my slave girl Hagar and I'll count him as my son. That's gotta be the only way God can fulfill this promise. And so Abram, like a great husband and an upstanding man, says, okay. And sure enough, Hagar gets pregnant. And you guys will probably all be shocked to hear this, but this causes a little bit of friction between Sarai and Hagar. It's something no one could have possibly seen coming, but a little drama ensues between the two women, and I have no comment about woman drama other than to say brokenness and pain are what happen when we doubt God and decide our plans are better than his. And Hagar, we aren't going to pretend that she had a choice here. It's not her fault that she's pregnant, but she begins to be a little bit condescending towards Sarai, who's a woman carrying some deep emotional scars about never being able to conceive. And Sarai, who had this whole idea in the first place, responds viciously. In anger and jealousy, the Bible tells us she abused and humiliated Hagar. The word in Hebrew means inflicting intense emotional, verbal, and maybe even physical persecution. And Hagar couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't fair. This wasn't her plan, and she didn't deserve to be dehumanized and mistreated, and so she ran away. She fled in fear for her life and the life of her baby. And when we catch up to her in Genesis 16:7, she's made it over 100 miles from Abram and Sarai's camp, and she's headed back toward her homeland of Egypt. But there's an issue. The parched backyard of Egypt is a desert full of nothingness that's called Shur. And Shur means the wall. And this region was called the Wall because it was so desolate and so foreboding. Crossing it was so likely to end in death that not even well-stocked armies would try and travel across it. It was basically a wall that protected Egypt from being attacked on that side. And up against that wall, we find desperate, abused, helpless, pregnant Hagar. Destined at this point to die of thirst if something else doesn't kill her first. And then something happens. God shows up. He meets her by a spring in the desert and says, Hagar, where are you going? And she says, I'm running away from this situation I don't deserve, that I can't stand. And he tells her, you gotta go back. I'm gonna be with you and you're gonna have a son. This is one of the most profoundly beautiful moments in the entire Bible. Hagar's desperate with no idea where to go or what to do next. Things are uncertain, the future is cloudy, and the last reservoirs of hope are drying up inside her soul, and I can relate to that. I think so many of us have been in that space. We know what it is to be there. A lot of us feel like we're there right now. And I desperately want us to know tonight the same thing Hagar found out while she was staring down that desert. Sometimes, when we are out looking for hope, we run into God out looking for us. The despair we're feeling doesn't create distance between us and him. He's there and he's chasing us down in the middle of the mess. I mean, we may feel lost in the barren wasteland of a broken world, but you guys, God sees us. God sees you, just like he saw Hagar. This is fascinating. When God finds Hagar and calls out to her, this is the only time in all of ancient Near Eastern literature, from any religion or any tradition until Jesus shows up on the scene, where a deity addresses a woman by her name. And if you read Genesis 15 and 16, you'll find that not even Abram and Sarai would call her by her name. To them, she was just that slave girl. But God didn't see her or treat her as nameless property. He actually treated her the same way he treated Abram, as a human being made in his image that he knew and loved and had a future for. And this is so cool to me, because for me and you, for all of us, it means our current brokenness is not proof God doesn't exist. It's just proof that we're humans and he isn't done writing our story yet. That's what Hagar found out. She was blown away by this promise God made to her that she'd have a son who'd have many descendants. But more than that, above anything else in this moment, she was floored by the idea that while she was sitting up against the wall, abandoned, frightened, and completely alone, God saw her. And in verse 13, she actually gives a name to God. And right here is the only time in the entire Bible where a person gives a name to God. But he doesn't correct her, which means she's right. She nails it here. She looks at God and says, "You are El Roi. You are the God who sees me." That's what El Roi means, the God who sees me. Hagar said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." You guys, what if you believed deep down in your soul tonight that God sees you? That he sees you in your joy and he sees you in your suffering. That in this world, which was already a pretty isolating place before this pandemic struck and we were forced to intentionally isolate and distance ourselves even further, what if you believe that when you're lonely, you are never alone because the creator of the universe sees you right where you are? If you're anything like me, maybe you're tempted sometimes to just curl up and quit living while you're still alive because you feel like you're up against a wall and there's no way forward. But oh man, if it's true that God sees me in the middle of my pain and imperfection, even when I can't see him, even when I can't feel him, if he sees me and he's out looking for me when I'm out looking for hope, that means the best days are up ahead of me and not behind me. That means big things can come from my broken pieces because God sees me, and it's so cool. And the way this chapter of Genesis, this chapter of Hagar's story ends is so cool too. She sees the well that's nearby and she drinks and she's restored. And then she gives birth to this baby boy named Ishmael. And then the well gets a name too. Be'er Lahai-roi, the well of the living one who sees me. And remember, we began this story with Hagar at the wall, Shur. And now we end with her at the well, Be'er Lahai-roi. We started with hopeless, dry dehydration and death, and we ended with deep water and life. It is not an accident that God met Hagar precisely where he did, because he meant to turn her wall into a well. God saw her in her depression and in her despair and in her emptiness. And he said, look, maybe your present is full of hopelessness, but your future is full of hope. And he aimed her in a different direction. You guys, that's the incredible, unbreakable hope we all have in Jesus. He sees us. And take some time during this quarantine to read the gospel accounts of Jesus' life, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And you might be surprised how often you read the phrase, Jesus saw. Jesus saw. He continually saw the people, the world pass by. He saw the lame, the lepers, the lonely, and the lost. He saw the hurting, the heartbroken, the hungry, and the hopeless. And he sees you right where you are. El Roi sees you. And he's at work, still writing your story. He's the God who turns graves into gardens, bones into armies, seas into highways, and walls into wells. He's the only one who can, and he sees you and he sees me. And because El Roi is alive, I really do believe that even in the middle of a global crisis, every space where humans dwell can be saturated with hope and love. I believe that's the promise we claim and the message that's ours to deliver to a scared world. Hope is real and love is here because the one who spoke the universe into being, who holds all things in his hands, sees you. That's who God is. And that's why hope is alive in us.
Well, hey, thanks again for joining us for Wednesday Night Live tonight. We're so glad that you decided to spend your evening with us. Just a couple of things I want to bring to your attention as we wrap up tonight. First one being, we're going to be right back here online on Sunday at 10 a.m. and we'd love for you to join us. We'd also love for you to invite your friends and family to be a part of what's going on here at Revision Online. They can like our Facebook page or subscribe to our YouTube channel to follow along, and we'd love to have them do that. Another thing we want to bring to your attention is for parents we're going to be posting some great stuff for kids tomorrow night. So be on the lookout for an awesome video with some great content. Maybe you're feeling like you're running out of ideas to keep your kids entertained and going in this season. And so this will be great. I know I've been watching a lot of Minnie Mouse these days with my kids, and so we could use something like that. So be on the lookout. It'll be on YouTube and it'll be on Facebook as well. And we'd love to have you take advantage of that tomorrow night. All right, well, that's it for tonight. Thanks again for being here. We'll see you guys Sunday at 10 a.m. Have an awesome night.